So this is a complete impromptu video. We've got no rehearsal, no scripting, anything. But I saw Tim and I wanted to get you on camera because Tim is the head of vehicle fleet. He's the one that decides which vehicles come to force, which vehicles are used as traffic cars, which vehicles you pick and spec out and why you pick them out. So I thought it'd be good for members of the public to understand the reasons why and what it takes behind the scenes. So Tim, first of all, thank you for speaking to me.
You're welcome.
Let's go straight into the nitty-gritty, so to speak. Let's do road traffic vehicles. What makes you sit in an office and pick the road traffic vehicles for the officers out there on the streets?
You like a cup of tea?
Well, sitting in an office and drinking tea is my speciality, I can tell you that.
I want you to have a cup of tea.
I can have that job as well.
I spend most of my time doing that. Really, it's a collaborative effort. So nationally, we tend to pick the same type of vehicles that each different police force is picking from a range of vehicles. And how we get to that acquisition of that vehicle and deciding what it is, there's a whole process that goes into that in the background. And it's not just Tim Sykes making a decision saying, I'll have that car, or I'll have that car, I'll have the other car. We have nationally a vehicle selection that we pick from. Those vehicles have been selected on a huge range of criteria. We need to make sure that these vehicles, which are operating at the very extremes of their design envelope, are capable of doing the job. And that's in terms of, can they perform at the speed, can they perform at maximum gross weight, what are they like at handling. Now, I don't have the resources in Cheshire Constabulary to do that kind of testing and evaluation, but fortunately our colleagues at the Metropolitan Police have their own huge in-house testing facility where they evaluate the vehicles. So our procurement contracts that we use nationally to buy our vehicles off manages to filter out our vehicles down to a select few vehicles. And then in each category, for example, roads policing vehicles or marked response cars, a number of vehicles then go through a really rigorous testing and evaluation process, and we end up with a short list of vehicles.
Yeah.
Then we get the manufacturer support in terms of pricing and support, and we need to look at deciding which of those vehicles are going to offer us the best value for money. Not necessarily the outright purchase price, but the whole life cost of those vehicles.
Yeah.
How well are they going to last? How well are they going to do the job? And are they going to be still fit for purpose in 5 years' time as they were when they were brand new?
Because there's not just I'm going to go to this garage and pick this car off the shelf.
No, absolutely.
There's a lot to think about in regards to fitting your light bars, fitting your electronics inside, wiring looms, radio. Is this vehicle going to perform at 155 miles an hour for 50-mile pursuit while it's got an extra 10 stone in the back, X, Y, and Z? So a few quick questions for you. Is there a list, or can you tell me that? Is there a list? Because we always say, can we have one of them? And I say, it's not on the list.
Yeah.
Is there an actual list of cars that you can go A at the top, Alpha, all the way down to, I'm going to say Zebedee, we're making this car up at the bottom. Is there a list?
There is kind of a list. It's evolving all the time, so the list is changing all the time with our procurement colleagues. So obviously manufacturers are changing their vehicles all the time, and as we move away from internal combustion engine vehicles in petrol and diesel, manufacturers are shrinking the ranges that they have. They're discontinuing ranges of cars, or they're certainly discontinuing the high performance variants of those cars. So quite often we have to shift to another brand or another make and another model. So when we say, is there a list, it's not a permanent list, it's a list that's evolving all the time.
Moving all the time.
Yeah.
So how is, you've just hit the nail on the head for the next question, how is the thing that we're going through? Because I remember being in traffic and it was petrol. Everything was petrol, 2.8, 3 litre, 3.2, get your big engines in. And then petrol was the enemy, we went to diesel. And then now diesel's the enemy, and then we've gone to electric. You know the story. How does it feel when someone's coming in now and saying, right, we're going electric? And how hard does it make your job when you might go, right, we've got, and I'm not saying we've got a Tesla, we've got this, we've got that. Will traffic cars, in your opinion, go fully electric?
Oh, undoubtedly. So we are following the government's Road to Zero target. So we've got distinct milestones in there. So by 2030, the only vehicles we'll be able to buy from then are pure EVs or hybrids, and from 2035, pure EVs. Now, governments change, new governments come in. We've had previous governments move the goalpost 5 years one way, 5 years the other way. These manufacturers are working on 10, 15-year timelines. They've already got their rollout of how they're going to change over.
Yeah.
They've got the zero-emission vehicle mandate, the ZEV mandate, which tells them what percentage of their vehicles that they sell in the UK every year have to be pure electric. And that's ramping up each year. It's 28, it's 33%, and it's going up and up and up till it gets to 100% at the end of that graph. So it's coming at one point. The challenge for us in policing, especially as we're a not-for-profit organisation spending taxpayers' money, is how are we going to deliver high-performance electric vehicles? That's not the hardest part. The hardest part is how we're going to charge them up.
Yeah, this is the idea, because you can't go out on a shift, and I'm just going to say Tesla, you can't go out in a shift in a Tesla and then do 10 hours and come back on a 20% charge. And just as we're pulling into the police station in as BMW M340s, extra Romeo 5.2, we've had a stolen vehicle, it's literally 2 streets away, it's now making off, and you're like, I need to charge my car.
Yeah.
I'm going to burn through this within a couple of seconds. Yeah. You've got to have that thought process. So it might work on change around times for vehicle fleets to out crossover limits and this sort of thing, but it is going to come in at some point.
It's definitely coming in at some point. We are fortunate in what you might call the smaller shire forces like we are, that we're not pioneers in this. There are others, there are other organisations, there are other police forces. So Police Scotland invested heavily in electric vehicles on the lead up to the COP26, and they've got a series of experts, a guy called Billy there at Scotland, that gives us in the smaller forces advice. Really, really good at sharing their learning in terms of mistakes that they've made along the way and how they have made various changes in the way that they do their EV charging. So we don't have to make expensive mistakes. There are others ahead of us who've already worked out how to do it.
Yeah.
It's just us following behind them and making that happen, really.
Yeah. One thing you said to me earlier on about taxpayers' money, there's so many videos I make and people out there waste taxpayers' money. I did a Golf R, waste taxpayers' money. I did an S3, waste taxpayers' money. And then you start going through, well, what sort of vehicles can you get that are as expensive?
What the hell is that?
That's a 2015 Tartan Prancer.
That can do the role, but have the reliability. That's got to be a minefield for you, because I'm not saying they say it, you buy cheap, you buy twice.
So anytime we run out of juice, we can just pull right over and plug in. I don't know what that is.
But there's got to be some cars that you think, well, not 60 is as fast as this. But this, when you look at reliability or cost-wise, might either be twice as much as a Golf R or half as much as a Golf R, but you look at reviews and go, they break within 2 hours. Yeah. That's got to be a bit of responsibility on your shoulders. It's got to be a bit of a minefield for you to navigate.
You've hit the nail on the head there. So the race to the bottom in prices, you can always find a cheaper car. We can always buy a cheaper car. We can pay less and less and less for those vehicles. Actually, the number of high-performance vehicles, and I'm not just talking about your average run-of-the-mill cars, your high-performance vehicles, the actual number of those vehicles, the manufacturers that are producing those is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's because of the emissions of those vehicles produced and how they get penalised by the EU for producing those vehicles in terms of the Euro fine for every CO2 gram that they have over the limit that they do. So the number of vehicles is getting smaller, but yes, you can buy cheaper. And if you look back in history, we've bought high performance vehicles that are super fragile, like racing cars. So I think about when we used to buy Subaru Imprezas, you think about
tin box on wheels.
Yeah, you've got the Hyundai Ns. These are performance vehicles that really are based on rally cars and need that kind of rally car maintenance. They aren't robust enough to do the kind of shifts and put the kind of work in. So we tend to pick the more premium brands because they've got the better longevity, they're better in terms of the resilience and parts availability. You know, when a VW product, you mentioned a Golf R, when one of those goes off the road, you know, you're not waiting 6 months for a drive shaft to come from Japan or whatever, because it's a European manufacturer. Parts availability is better. The resilience of the vehicle is better. And again, we're looking at vehicles that have been through a very rigorous testing procedure with the Met Police, who are making sure that that vehicle is going to do what it needs to do for a long time, not just for the first 2 months of its life.
So can I throw something at you? And one thing I never get involved in is politics, race, religion. Don't panic. I'm not going to throw that at you. However, you said governments do change. Governments can change. Someone gets in tomorrow, I'm not going to mention any names, but someone gets in tomorrow and says, right, we're out of this green, I'm not saying rubbish, I'm just saying, they say, we're out of this green rubbish thing. We're not doing that. Back to petrol, 3 litre, whatever. Does that change the way then you do? If you get a carte blanche and saying, hang on, we don't have to go electric, we can go now for what, in theory, what I'm not saying you want, but you can literally say, right, we're back to petrol now. is the only reason we're going that because the government is saying that, but you might think, well, this is a better vehicle. Does that make sense of the question that I've asked?
I mean, different governments can come in and try and move the policies, but to be honest, they're trying to move an immovable object because the manufacturers are already geared up on their journey. Now, they might be able to delay things by a few years or extend things by a few years, but they're basically gearing up their manufacturing plants. Even in the county where we're in now, we had a huge manufacturing plant that was producing petrol and diesel Vauxhalls. That plant now is exclusively producing electric vehicles. Right. Our main Nissan vehicles in Sunderland, they're pumping out those are going to be electric vehicles. The manufacturers are already on the EV transition journey.
Yeah.
And a new government might come in and say, well, we'll delay this 5 years or we'll hand this 5 years. But realistically, that isn't going to make a difference to what manufacturers are doing.
Right. Last but not least, because I don't want to take up any more of your time because I know you're a very important man. I don't know how far you can answer this question as well, but I need to ask this. People all out there want to know is, let's just say we've picked this beat car, we've never reviewed a beat car, we've picked this beat car. Do you get vehicles cheaper than what members of the public get them? And then when you get them and they've done the lifespan, they've got to a certain point, what happens with them then? And can people turn up at the places where they go and buy them?
So to answer those questions in order, yes, we get fantastic discounts. We have brilliant partnerships with the major manufacturers in the UK. We're stood in front of a Toyota here. This car was made in the UK at Burnaston in Derby, so we're supporting British industry. But equally, we have partnerships with manufacturers like Stellantis that are the parent manufacturer for your Peugeots, your Citroens and things like that. We have fantastic relationships with those. And they are long-term relationships, not just the purchase of the vehicle, but also the parts that we're going to buy through the vehicle through its life, what's going to happen with that vehicle all the way through, the training, the diagnostic kit, the tooling that we need to buy for these vehicles. These are all considered as part of the procurement before we're buying the vehicles. So yes, we do get a fantastic discounts off the vehicles when we buy them. When they get to the end of the life, always an interesting question. So one of these cars, when it gets to the ends of its life, has had a hard life, has had a very hard life.
One thing I always say is never touch a traffic car, don't go near a traffic car. But people now, there's a massive business world out there for people buying old school T5s.
Yeah.
They're the collectible ones. But in regards to things, people use them for TV, film, that sort of thing. But as a member of the public, don't go near one.
Well, you could turn up at the auctions when this car's finished, it'll have no livery on it. All this livery will be removed and the auctions will make that car as good as they possibly can. They'll clean up the bodywork, they'll tidy it up. The car will have another MOT test and it'll be in an end-of-life condition. But you're buying a vehicle that has had a very, very hard life and you're buying it at the wrong end of its life.
Yeah.
So caveat emptor, buyer beware. You can go to the auctions and buy one.
Exactly.
If that's what you want to do.
And are they normal auctions, what you go to, or do you have to go to a specialist police auction?
So we have, again, everything's governed by national procurement contracts. So we have normal auctioneers that we use up and down the country. And, you know, all the vehicles tend to end up at the same auctions. If you wanted to buy one, you could go there and buy one.
So just because it says one owner, full service history, it doesn't mean it's your grandmother that's had that car.
It doesn't say one careful owner, it just says one owner.
One owner, which is the police, but 4,000 drivers, a lot of sweaty ass traffic cops. And it's been hammered from day one. I just want to say thank you for letting us know. Thank you for everything you do.
You're welcome.
Last but not least, is Porsche on the list?
Porsche is not on the list yet.
Right, okay. And why, if I'm throwing this out there, members of the public, why is not one company, UK-wide or worldwide, make traffic cars? Does that make sense? So we have suspension from, let's say, Subaru, we have an Audi chassis, we have the engine from wherever, and we perform this thing, so it's literally driving, vroom, vroom, vroom. I'm not saying like a rally stock, but it's designed, it's got full caging back, it's hose piping, wash all blood out, and it's just that thing. It's just designed for police, no one else.
To be honest, in the global market, we're not as big a player as you think we would be in terms of volume sales. A car rental company will buy more cars in a month than we'll buy in 10 years.
Wow.
You know, we're not that bigger player, a bigger customer. I know that in years gone by, various manufacturers back in the day have offered to produce a police car that would do for the whole vehicle, but it's one manufacturer. To be honest, the quality of the product of all the vehicles that we buy are superb, and the highest performance vehicles that we buy are of such a high quality. They're designed by that manufacturer to operate, as I said, at the very edge of their design envelope, and we stick with those because they are the best cars that you can buy. They offer the best value for money long term over the whole life of the vehicle, and they're the most reliable. And I'll go back to what I said right at the very beginning: safety of those officers, safety of other road users. That's what my job
paramount.
is. Yeah.
Thank you very much for speaking.
You're welcome.
You're an absolute gentleman.
You're welcome.
You are a font of knowledge. If you like videos like this, or you want to ask some questions, put them in the comments below and I'll forward them on down the line. These vehicles are here to stay, and as you can see, the future is changing. The future is going electric, hybrid, and everything else. So, unfortunately, if you don't like petrol engines, there's nothing more you can do about it. So, I've always said, until that last little drip of fuel comes out, I'm going to be driving my 2 litre Golf. I do apologise. So, if you like it, tune in. More videos next time. See you then.